Hello everyone, I am Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IAS English. In our today's video, we'll try to understand why this island of Diego Garcia is in news currently. Now, the reason why we have picked up this topic because this island of Diego Garcia, which hosts a joint US-UK military base, was recently targeted by Iran when it fired two ballistic missiles towards this particular island. Although these ballistic missiles were intercepted by US, but it also marks a dramatic escalation in the conflict which is ongoing in the Middle Eastern region. Now, as this island is about 4,000 kilometers away from the Iranian mainland, this shows that Iran can now reach many faraway locations like the Diego Garcia, which brought world's attention. So in this regard, we'll try to understand first of all, where is this Diego Garcia island located? And then we'll try to understand what is the military importance of this island, particularly for US. Then we'll try to understand what is the ownership status of this island, and then we'll try to proceed how this attack by Iran marks towards a dramatic escalation in the conflict which is ongoing in the Middle Eastern region. Okay, now the notes which I will be using for our today's lecture, you can go to the Telegram channel ATS Live and download them. And while you're at it, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel also. So let us first start by understanding where is this Diego Garcia Island. Now this Diego Garcia Island is a 32.5 square kilometers atoll which is located right in the middle of Indian Ocean. Now from the perspective of India, this is located south of India and southwest of Sri Lanka, and it is located right in the central Indian Ocean. Now this belongs to the overall archipelago of the Chagos Island, which is the largest island in the whole of Chagos Archipelago. Now Chagos Archipelago is basically 56 square kilometers in area, and you can understand 32.5 square kilometers of that area itself belongs to Diego Garcia. Right now, the location of this island is basically right in the central Indian Ocean, southern from India and southwest from Sri Lanka. Okay, now let us understand why or what is the military importance of this island for US. Now, US has two major critical bomber bases in the Indo-Pacific region, and one of these two is the Diego Garcia Island. Now this base hosts bombers, nuclear submarines as well as guided missile destroyers, and this base also is very critical to US Space Force tracking infrastructure, where many radars have been deployed which is able to track the satellites sent by US Space Force. So this is the military and space related significance of this island for the United States. Now let us understand why they chose particularly Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean to establish as one of the bases in Indo-Pacific. Now, after the end of World War II, there was a wave of decolonization where many countries got independence. And this meant that US naval planners, they were alarmed by the fact that America's access to overseas bases, they were shrinking as compared to their Cold War rival, the Soviet Union. So this warned the policymakers of US. So they realized that in case of any conflict in the Indian Ocean region, their access to their region from their country, US, they would be restricted if there was restrictions on Suez Canal on one hand and Strait of Singapore or Strait of Malacca on the other. So this left US vulnerable. And that meant that US Navy would need a permanent foothold in the Indian Ocean itself in order to regain their preponderance in the region. And this meant that they should choose a particular location in the Indian Ocean region, and Diego Garcia was a particular answer to this very specific problem. Because Diego Garcia for US has many qualities. First of all, it offers a natural airstrip and anchorage where not just the planes can land, but even their largest of warships can get anchored. Similarly, it is an island having a tiny population which can be very politically manageable for a neo-colonizer like the United States. Similarly, the political control of this island rests with Britain, which is a key ally of US, and the right dead center location of this island means it is very strategically significant for the United States. Why it is strategically significant for the United States? Let us understand. Now, let us consider the location of the Diego Garcia, which is somewhere right here in the central Indian Ocean region. Now this is very close to the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, which is nearly 3,000 kilometers in distance. Similarly, it is also about 3,000 kilometers away from the Strait of Malacca. Now this equidistance of 3,000 kilometers each towards one of the more important vital choke points near the Indian Ocean region, that is the Bab al-Mandeb Strait and Strait of Malacca, means that it is a very strategic location where if US deploys its long range bombers, it is very near to them for reach in these two critical maritime choke points if US were to get restricted from accessing these important states. So this is why it is militarily significant for US that they established their base in the Diego Garcia region, which I've told you with the help of a map. It is basically 3,000 kilometers away from either of these two important choke points. Now, let us try to understand how has US used Diego Garcia in its recent conflicts. Now, after the Iranian Revolution of 1979, which changed the entire politics of the West Asia region, Diego Garcia underwent one of the biggest expansions in the history of US military after the Vietnam War. Now, the harbor of this particular island was deepened so that even the aircraft carriers of US can park near it. It houses a 12,000 foot long runway, which is built specifically for the long range bombers like B-1, B-2 and B-52 bombers to land on it. Similarly, it also houses massive ships and other advanced weaponries which can be used by US in such kind of a conflicts which happens near to the Indian Ocean region. Also, there are numerous air operations that were launched by US in its conflict within this region. For example, the Persian Gulf War, which happened in 1990-91, the US led airstrikes in Afghanistan, which happened after the 9/11 attacks, and the US rather illegally declared war on Iraq, where they bombed Iraq under the pretext of weapons of mass destruction. So these were the historical reasons why US uses Diego Garcia for conflicts in the region. Now, let us understand what is the ownership status of the Diego Garcia Island. Now, it was UK, which I told you, it is a British International Oceanic Territory, BIOT. Now, UK granted US a 50-year lease in 1966 to use Diego Garcia Island as a major facility, which was extended again in 2016 for a 20 years time period. Now, this extension originally, which was given in 2016 for 20 years, was set to expire in 2036. But something happened in 2019. Mauritius, it filed a case in the International Court of Justice seeking the sovereign status of this Chagos archipelago, which I told you is one of the parts of the Diego Garcia Island. Now, the original intention of the judgment of the ICJ was that the original separation of the Chagos archipelago from Mauritius was deemed illegal, and therefore it was recommended by the International Court of Justice that the island should be handed over back again to the Mauritius. And as a result, the UK government back in last year 2025 signed a formal agreement with Mauritius by transferring the sovereignty of Chagos archipelago to it, and therefore immediately Mauritius leased it back to UK for a period of 1999 years and with a fee of $101 million pounds a year. So this was the cost associated with the transfer of lease, as Mauritius was declared as the political sovereign over this authority, but the lease of this particular island was transferred back to UK so that it can continue its military operations in close coordination with the US. So this is the present ownership status of Diego Garcia. Now let us understand why Iran's attack on Diego Garcia came as a surprise, and there are two reasons for it. First reason is the geographical expansion of the conflict. Now, I told you one of the key reasons of this conflict, why US and Israel are engaged in war with Iran, were two reasons. First reason was the Iran's nuclear program, and second reason was the ability of Iran to strike very geographically far away targets using its ballistic missiles. Now, before the war, US was involved in active negotiations with Iran, and Israel tried to force US not just to restrict the nuclear program of Iran, but also impose sanctions on Iran in order to limit the ranges of Iran's ballistic missile. And in their defense, Iran last month claimed that their missiles were limited to just 2,000 kilometers and they were having defensive posture. But this Iran's attack over the Diego Garcia actually betrays their own statement that were made before. This means that Iran now has a far larger capability to hit targets which is geographically distant away from Iran as it was claimed before. For example, they used this time intermediate range ballistic missiles which has the potential to target about 5,500 kilometers away from the launch of the missile. Right now, this is far greater than what Iran had publicly acknowledged before. Now, until now, many believe that Iran had a limited ballistic missile targeting capacity as it was targeting locations only about 2,000 kilometers far away from Iran. Right, but Now its ability to strike up to 5,500 kilometers brings many European cities and faraway bases like Diego Garcia in the targets of Iran, which is a cause of concern primarily for US as well as Israel, because they had not imagined that Iran would have this kind of a capability. Now, the second problem is expansion of this conflict now involving the UK. Now, UK has not formally participated in this military airstrikes which is done on Iran, because it is solely limited right now to US and Israel. Now, UK, not so long before, its Prime Minister gave US the permission to use the Diego Garcia Island to target the set of Iran's missile sites which was targeting the Strait of Hormuz under the Operation Epic Fury. So the UK gave a very specific permission to the United States that they can strike missiles to those sites which threatened the ships located in Strait of Hormuz. But now, since UK did not formally join this kind of a war, and Iran targeting UK also brings the question whether UK will participate in this war in the future. So this attack is significant. First reason of this significance is that, what, contrary to popular belief, Iran can actually target sites as much as 5,500 kilometers from its mainland, which puts many European cities and faraway bases of US and Israel like the Diego Garcia in its targets. And the second significance is the possibility that once a UK site was targeted, it is also a possible effect that UK might join this war efforts later in the year, basically expanding the conflict beyond the region of Middle East and beyond the three parties that are involved currently, US and Israel on one hand and Iran on another, right? So this was the moot point of our today's discussion. Now, I have curated a specific question keeping in mind the needs for UPSC, but before that, I have a very important announcement to make. A new batch is going to start from 26th of March, and you can still take admissions to these batches up till 27th of March by using the Safalta sale. Now, Safalta sale offers 60% off on all the courses, and if you use the code ATS Live before making the payment, you are going to get maximum discounts on all the courses. So please do not miss this opportunity. Take the admissions as soon as possible, because the batches are going to start from 26th and this sale is going to end one day after 26th, that is 27th of March, up till midnight. Okay, so this is all from my side for today. This is the question I want you to solve. Diego Garcia, the largest island of the Chagos Archipelago, is located in which part of the globe? Do let me know the correct answers in the comment section, and if you want to download the notes, you can go to this particular Telegram channel. The Telegram channel name is ATS Live. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel also. Okay, so this is all from my side for today. Please have a very good day. We'll see each other again tomorrow.